one thing I representing a man for Uptown TV. You understand?
Yasama batachinoi, besama yemet nor, semika des mangustienta, fegadi besama indionech, endi hu bemedir tihun, yala tenjarachnen sitenzare, bedelachnen ikker belen, igna yebedelnen ikkeren demenil, awada fetna matagban, kakifu adenenen fi, mengist yante antenantena, highly maskan lisleale.
In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa, we ask these ancestors to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the African ancestors who began the march of humankind in the womb of Mother Africa and marched down the Nile, laying the foundations for human civilization and culture, we ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of these African ancestors who built their pyramids and their temples to their God concepts, to their principles, and to their moral values, who left us a legacy of architectural and monumental building unparalleled in the history of the world, we ask these ancestors who built the pyramids, who built the temples, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these African ancestors who took this African culture and extended it throughout Africa, building the stone cities of Zimbabwe, building the empires of the Sudan, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, building the Swahili city-states along the east coast of Africa, and in Christian Africa asking King Lalibela and giving him the courage to build the 12 churches of Lalibela from the ground down, monuments to the world. We ask these Africans who spread this culture to the Dogo and to the Akan and to the Yoruba and to the Bankango and to the Zulu. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. In the name of the Africans who opened up Africa, opened up the Nile Valley to other cultures and other peoples, and they came in and nurtured themselves on the African greatness. First coming in early were the ancient Hebrews, and they synthesized this culture and produced Judaism. Later coming in were the Christians, and they synthesized this culture and produced Christianity. Coming in were also the Greeks, who took the African culture, synthesized it, and produced Greek civilization. And then later, the Prophet Muhammad, and with the Arabs coming into the Nile Valley, they synthesized the culture and produced Islam. We ask these African ancestors, who as part of their legacy laid the foundations for Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and Greek civilization, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask those African ancestors pulled out of Africa, taken to the hells of North America, South America, the Caribbean, maintaining the spirit of African humanity in their hearts and in their minds, and who left us this enormous legacy of struggle. We ask those Africans who resisted enslavement in the villages of Africa, who resisted enslavement in the shores of Africa, who resisted enslavement in those forts and dungeons, who resisted enslavement in the holds of those ships, who resisted enslavement when they arrived on these shores in the New World. We ask these Africans who ran into the highlands of northeast Brazil and established for 100 years the first free republic in the Americas, the Republic of Palmares, and their last great leader, Zumbi, whose spirit and sacrifice. We ask these Africans who replicated the Brazilian experience and went into the highlands of Jamaica and became the maroon free communities. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of the Guyanas and Suriname and created free republic of the Suramaka and the Ajuka. We ask these Africans who went into the backwoods of Georgia and the swamps of Florida and moved with the Seminole Indians and resisted oppression. We ask these Africans who left us a legacy of struggle and resistance, the likes of which no one in the world has, to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future. We ask these Africans who created and laid for us a foundation of struggle and resistance that was passed on generation after generation, that was passed on to Harriet Tubman, who fought her way out of enslavement and became a symbol of freedom for all of us. Similarly, Frederick Douglass and hundreds of thousands of others fought their way out of enslavement. We ask those Africans who went with Boukman Dessalines to create the greatest revolutionary experience in the history of the world, the Haitian Revolution, leaving us a legacy, the likes of which no one else has had. We ask these Africans to be with us, to strengthen us, and give us a vision for the future.
Let us start our class with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Larry Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire to love you more, to attune our hearts and minds with your great presence. Om. Peace.
For the entry into somebody else's house.
Excellent is thy name. Thou hast set thy glory above the heavens.
Seems like a world away, but it was just 2 weeks ago that we saw what is being referred to as the attempted assassination on a former U.S. President, Donald Trump. Ceremony of the Olympics in Paris. Athletes were introduced on marine vessels, boats, barges, of all kinds of designs and sizes, led off by Greece. What's interesting is that optics is everything at the end of the day, you know. We saw the dinghy that they put Haiti and Gabon. Symbolizing refugee status or refugee situation. We are now on the backside of the opening ceremony, but we're seeing a backlash because a controversial turn to this opening ceremony is what we're facing now. We have sponsors pulling out their sponsorship. We have the Christian church coming out, many churches coming out and condemning what they calling satanic rituals and symbolisms within the opening ceremony. We have Christians from across the world rising up in arms against what they're calling the mockery of a parody of the Last Supper. We have an Anglican or a Catholic bishop here who came out and talked about the debauchery and the vulgarity. We have people talking about pedophilia. We have people talking about, just vulgarity, generally speaking. Hedonism. And this is what we're hearing now coming on the other side of the opening ceremony. The symbolism were there for everyone to see. They weren't hiding them. So we saw one in particular getting a lot of attention, and that's the one with the reimagining of the Last Supper. We saw where drag queens were replaced, the disciples, and Jesus replaced by drag queens, or however I don't even know how, who. This is what we're told, that they're drag queens. In any case, what we're hearing now is pretty interesting coming out on the backside of all of this. So I watched it. I watched the opening ceremony of the Olympics in Paris. I sat and I watched all of it, actually. Hours it lasted, didn't it? Well, 3 hours and some. And, it happened in the rain, so it was a disaster in terms of just that all of this was happening outdoors. We were seeing this happening for the first time outdoors as far as I can remember. And at the same time, outdoors on the River Seine with rain, pouring rain. So that aside, now we're getting the backlash because people are saying that there are just too many satanic rituals the symbolism, as I said, the symbolism were there for everyone to see. People are drawing for Revelations this morning because there's one scene in particular that they lifted straight from Revelations, you know, talking about the horsemen or the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and the nations, you know, behind. They were riding out in front of the nations behind with you know, with all their flags, and that's exactly what they did. Talk about self-fulfilling prophecy. So they did that, and then the pale rider, behold a pale horse, and you know, the masked rider on the pale horse. So, you know, Snoop Dogg with his the jewelry around his neck, necklace, jewelry, chain, with the Baphomet, and just so much happening there. There's just so much symbolism, and Marie Antoinette, a caricature of Marie Antoinette with the beheaded Marie Antoinette with her head in her hands, her bloody head in her hands. It's an interesting thing, what they did in Paris. It's as if they said, well, come here. Come here, let me show you something. So, listen, I'm not all up in arms, as, you know, most people are, about what happened in Paris, because, I don't know, you watch the Olympic ceremony, opening ceremonies year in and year out, and there are always symbolisms, there are always all kinds of messages, the golden bull, the golden calf, the this or the that or the otherwise. COVID-19, for example. I just felt that COVID-19 was well predicted in the Olympics in the UK. And when you look at that, you see, yeah, what can I say? In hindsight. So anyway, so I'm not up in arms like, you know, many people just angry about that and tearing out my hair. We see symbolisms around us every day. These are the same people who are doing what they're doing in many spaces. And, you know, so this is really nothing new. It's for me, it's this outcry and this fall anger coming from the Christian community is rubbish. Because what happened is that, you know, all of these things that are happening generally were just brought into one space. That's the only difference, is that they were brought into one space within over a period of 3 hours. But all these things are in literature, in different events, in marches, in in church, and at stage shows, some of the massive stage shows, at coronations, the coronation of Charles the other day. Look at that. There were no outcries there. But anyway, just to say, you know, these are things that happen around us all the time. They have been ongoing. My thing is that my motto has been, you know, for a long, long time now, that if you do not fight against that which you do not want, fight for what you want. Because too much energy is spent in fighting for what you do not want. So you sometimes forget what you want. So if somebody is doing something that you do not like, and there's hardly anything you can do about it now, because take, for example, the Olympics, the opening ceremony, that is gone. So people are pulling sponsorship. It's on the backside of that. That is gone. All of that is gone. But what if you want to change the energy, and I'm talking now to a lot of the Christians who are calling me, if you want to change the energy around that, then focus on what you want. Focus on what you do. Lead a church motorcade through the streets of every town, and, you know, get your bullhorns and so on, and do your preaching in the highways and the byways, and balance it out, if this is how you see it. And generally, for just anything, for those who are talking about the pale horse and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and so on, well, if that is so, and this prophecy means something to you, then it means that there are other things that you should be doing. So instead of focusing on all of that, then how about focusing on what you should be doing? Just saying. To on in this program between 8 and 9 o'clock. So let's welcome our new sponsors on board. Hey, quickly, yes, I do know that the organizing committee of the Paris Olympics, that they have apologized for certain scenes at the games, the opening ceremony, and to quote the games organizing committee's communications director, she said, of course, there was no intention to show disrespect to any religious group. On the contrary, I think that Thomas Jolly, the ceremony's director, right, that's Thomas Jolly, the ceremony's director, wanted to celebrate societal tolerance, and these were his words. And judging by the audience numbers, this goal was achieved. If anyone was offended, she said, we are, of course, very sorry. So we are seeing apologies coming in left, right, and center. And one of the reasons for the apologies coming in like this from Paris is that the sponsors are beginning to pull their sponsorship. And so if you hit them in the pocket, they're going to apologize. So they're apologizing mainly to the Christian community. At preserving and protecting Jamaica's heritage, cultural heritage, and then nowly at how the Thuisinting has been doing that over the years on the island in Jamaica, how they've managed to be part of this national and Pan-African pride that we strive to find, and the Pan-Africanism and African-centeredness that we look for when we go to certain events, that they've managed to be consciously aware of their role and responsibility in not just presenting to Jamaica and the world an event, but in preserving and protecting our culture, our heritage. So in a while, we'll be hearing from Sister P and Siberia online. By the way, and this has nothing, it's a poor segue, I understand that we're having some geomagnetic storms and some solar flares and so on. So just be careful with you going outside, and be careful. Sometimes it looks as if it's, because we're so, in Jamaica, for example, we're so used to the tropical weather, the sun and so on. But just be aware that this is happening around you, that we're having a magnetic storms, we're having solar flares. And this is happening everywhere, by the way. This is happening all over the world. Unless we have 2 or 3 suns, for Earth. And I've heard people arguing that, that we have more than one sun. I'm not going down the road. I'm just saying. So we're having these geomagnetic storms. We're having these solar flares. And so pay attention. Also in Jamaica last week, this week actually, we've been having some squalls. And, really phenomenal, because people are calling them tornadoes and you name it, because them look like tornadoes, some of them. I hope you're okay, because I know there's some places in Jamaica where the winds were so high that people talk about they had to, hold on to things not to be taken away, these swirling winds. I know I laugh, but it's serious. So we've been having some really, really, really high winds at the same time. And so they tell us it's squalls, right? Squalls. Also, we're hearing from the weather people that the National Hurricane Center, in fact, they are saying that the chances of a tropical storm or hurricane developing across the Caribbean during the next 7 days have increased, and Jamaicans should stay alert just in case we see another one of that. And there's a system out there, and they're watching that. We're watching that. So we're turning that back. Go back where you come from. Where you're coming from. No. No. For people of African descent, and this may be the opportune time, given the current global geopolitical instability, the levels of that, for us to reimagine a just, equitable, and viable Jamaica. One in which each and every single one of us have the same right, the same equal opportunity for food, for shelter, for affordable access to health care and education, to live in safe communities. Remember them to tell we, So one of the things, them vision that came out of the World Economic Forum, Vision 2030, the place to live, work, raise family. I would like to see the research on the amount of teachers, nurses, civil servants, university graduates, the system who have left Jamaica since we started talking about Vision 2030, and compare that, to all the previous years. I'd like to see that research, so that as we come to the end of the decade, one of the things that we as a people need to do is to find our own vision, to come up with our own vision, to articulate our vision, to determine what our vision is, and then to articulate it so that each and every one of us understand. I know I can tell you that Vision 2030 was never the people's vision, so it wasn't embraced. I know people don't understand it. I can't have a vision that people don't understand, that people don't buy into. If you don't have a vision that people buy into, then it's no vision, it's a nightmare. So no matter how you pretty it up with words and dress it up in a frock and heels and, lipstick and so on, it is still a nightmare. We see where social media now drawing attention to the mining of gold in Jamaica and the mining prospects for large offshore reserves of crude oil with US billion-dollar value. People are calling me from foreign, people are calling me from Trinidad, people are calling me from Atlanta, saying me here's how to find oil. So there's some excitement around that. Don't know if it's a Guyana situation where, the name Jamaica is called, but it belonged to everybody else and not to the people. Given Jamaica's small population, still under 3 million, an economy of such magnitude, if presided over by good governance that is loyal to the black masses of this country, could quickly clear the national debt and forge a new socio-economic template. We can do that for habitation, for food security, investing in skills, in training, for technological innovations. We've been talking about alternate energy sources. It just takes a paradigm shift away from this public-private partnership that works against the people. In other words, there's nothing wrong with public-private partnerships. It's just that the ones that Jamaica is pursuing really work against the people. That's just basically what it is. It really doesn't take the masses of Jamaican people into consideration. Now we're going into independence, so-called independence, and coming up on Emancipation Day. But we're talking about economic independence, facilitated and sustained by increasing productivity and efficiency. And these fueled by incentivization and ongoing education. It takes a paradigm shift. So it's a matter of reimagining a new cultural, economic order. One in which each citizen is seen and recognized as an integral and valuable asset. This is something that we're going to have to talk about. We have to do more than talk about it. We're going to have to begin to act on what it is that we're saying. And sometimes we can't wait upon them. We have to start right where we are and do it from where we are. But it needs a state's response. It needs a national response also. So we really can't leave the government and that structure of government. We can't let them off of the hook, really. One thing we're going to have to... It's going to be difficult, I know, because they are committed to the neoliberal agenda and the neoliberal prejudices and discrimination and oppression. They are committed to it. They have bought into this. They're sold on it. And so to get them to turn away from this is going to be difficult. But I think that is our job as we move out of a decade for peoples of African descent and begin to think now as to where do we go from here. As I said before, broadly looking at preserving and protecting our culture, our heritage, and especially our heritage outside of even the decade. The decade wasn't our decade either. It belonged to the United Nations. It was their decade. They determined what would happen, how it would happen. And granted, they had a lot of our own principles, people who were leading that process, who came out of the bowels of Jamaica and the bowels of the Caribbean and the different predominantly African countries. And I don't mean continental African, African diaspora. But at the same time, it was never ours. It's theirs. And what have they done with it? What have we done with it? It would be great also to see the research on how the extent to which the decade benefited or is benefiting the masses of people, African people, in the African diaspora and continental Africa. All right. So I want to go to the phone lines now to speak with Sister P and Siberia Gordon. It's a long time I don't interview mother and daughter together, but it's something we used to do all the time. But I think I do have them both online. As you know, Sister P is a Pan-African, African-centered organizer of Who is Scenting, a cultural ambassador. And Siberia Gordon, as you know, is the daughter. Siberia, I don't know if you need no more introduction apart from saying you're the daughter of Sister P, but I know in your own right. So let us talk a little bit about Siberia so people understand what you've done over the years, for those who don't know yet. So she graduated from Bates College, where she earned a bachelor's degree in history, and she spent years afterward organizing workers in Connecticut, advocating for their rights. She is heavily involved in education right now, and I don't have it here, Siberia. So tell me, what exactly are you doing? Are you still with ConCan? It's not ConCan that you're with now?
No, I have now moved to NCC. I now live in Nashville, Tennessee, doing very similar work. Right now we're going to be organizing, getting people registered to vote for the upcoming election. As we all know, it's a historic one in the United States. So doing similar work in education and making sure that people are engaged and, know about what's happening in their education system in their country or in their city.
All right, brilliant. We're proud of you. And Sister P, I know we have a lot to talk about, but because we haven't had this kind of conversation, mother and daughter together, 3 are we together, 2 daughters and 1 mother, for a very long time, I can just imagine, just looking at the work that Sibiria has been doing in education, and now we just hear her talk about this historic election that's coming up, and she's going to be one of those persons helping with organizing and getting people out to vote. That, as a mom looking on, you must be really proud of the work that Sibiria is doing, what she's achieved and continues to achieve.
First of all, let me say good morning to the family. Hope everyone is well. I haven't been with you for a long time. You missed out something. Sibiria has a master's in public policy.
That's right. Sibiria, we need to update your bio in this place, so.
Yeah, she has a master's in public policy.
Yes.
Hello?
Oh, okay. Now I'd ask you, just your feelings on, and I know it's a mother-daughter situation, but I'm saying that there must be a lot of pride, just hearing and seeing, what Sibiria has achieved over the years.
Well, sometimes it's not a matter of pride. It's a matter of giving thanks, that, she has taken a path. A lot of people wouldn't have taken that path going through the unions, but she's always been a champion of education. And I think that started with her, going to the school in content, our little community school, and seeing the impact that it made on people who normally would not have been able to attend high school. So I think education is a personal thing to her.
Mm-hmm. And you did tell us that last time you were here, so we know that. So let's go deep into this conversation now, because here we are. Sister P, we're talking about how we preserve and protect our cultural heritage. And I'm talking to you in Sibiria because this has been your life work. And this now, Sibiria has always been a part of it, but she's now taken up the mantle, literally, from you in terms of ensuring that this work continues. Why is that so important to you, Sister P? Because you don't just do an event. You have made a decision that there's a responsibility that you have to be part of that, whether it's the wider structure that preserves and protects our heritage.
Well, first of all, I am no longer the organizer. Sibiria is now the organizer. She has taken over. Living in rural Jamaica, there's a culture that coming from Kingston that I did not know. And because I've been living in rural Jamaica now, I realized that there are so many things and preservations of our African heritage that if somebody does not preserve it, it just goes away, and especially as our society has changed, I don't know, it's a different culture. Mm-hmm. And I just feel that we as African people, we need to preserve what those who came before us, because, what they went through, we're not going through that, but we should respect the things that they had done before we came, before we arrived, and preserve that. And I feel very strongly about that. Jamaica has a population that is mostly African, but we have always looked outside of ourselves when we do have a lot for us to be proud of. But that is not what is being highlighted in the Jamaican context as our culture.
And Sibiria, obviously this was important to you because you've literally picked up, we watch your mom passing the baton on to you, but you've been there, you've been a part of this forever. Now though, from a managerial perspective, even while you're doing so much more in terms of your own personal life in the United States, why is this important to you?
So I think, growing up in Jamaica, as Mom said, we grew up in rural Jamaica, and you see a certain kind of culture that a lot of people are not exposed to. And I think if being I can't believe I'm going to say this, being almost 40 today, and I know I'm aging myself, and, I have watched how Jamaica has changed and watched how the things that, or the kind of music that I used to listen to as a young person is not even there anymore. It seems like our culture is getting eroded day by day. And it's really important to me that my children are able to connect to their ancestral heritage. I think in high school, I remember some of my friends coming to Philippines thing for the first time, and they had never seen Kumina. They had never seen Jankono. I think there are places and things that have been established to preserve our culture in Jamaica, but it's not on the scale that Philippine things is. And it's not community-driven, and it's not community-based. I think one of the best parts about Philippine things is most of the people who work there are coming from that community. It's in Hope Bay, which is the community that I grew up in, and at least Mom has spent a lot of time in. And you walk around, and it's a family celebration. Every year, some people say to me, bring an artist, bring an artist. And I constantly have to go back and say, Philippine thing is unlike anything else you will go to and be at. It's there to be able to experience. The way the Jankoner is there, jumping through the crowd, it's like you're a part of it. It's not something that you want, it's something to be a part of. Which is why I think it was very, very important to me to continue this, because as time goes on, there's less and less like this, events like this happening in the island, and I want to really ensure that, as I said, my children's children have access to our true Jamaican heritage. If you hear Kumina, you have to move. You must move to the beat of a Kumina drum. So I think it's just really important that we continue to have this and make sure that people, specifically young people, have access to an event like this.
Talking about the connection back to self, the connection back to our ancestors and our ancestral homeland. The temptation, Sister P, over the years, because we just heard Siberius say, people are asking, now bring an artist. And this, of course, is a temptation why we see ourselves now losing the cultural events, many of the cultural events that are not as old as Full Sinti, because Full Sinti has been happening for many, many years, but that have come up afterwards, and even some who probably started around about the same time, that they have all changed the way and who, not just the way, but also who they are catering to, the target audience. Whereas Full Sinti remains very, very true to its mandate. The temptation must have been great over the years. How did you resist that to make it and to continue making it the cultural, how do you say this? The kind of African-centered event that we don't see on this island?
Well, the thing is that, one of the things I really feel proud about with Sibiru is that she said to me a few weeks ago, she said, people still keep asking about artists. And she said, absolutely not. And the thing about it is that if you do put an artist, people are coming to see the artist and missing the whole point of what it is that we're doing. Full Sinti is not really a spectator. It's not a spectator event. It's an event where everyone gets involved. And as I said, putting an artist is going to take away from what it is that we're doing, which is preserving our African heritage. Not that an artist is not a part of that heritage, but what we want to do is preserve that traditional heritage.
And what do you draw upon? Both you and Sibiria can take this. What do you draw upon? Because Sister P, obviously, you were drawing upon all kinds of stuff back in the day, and now we have new time. so let me just ask you, what do you draw upon? Then Sibiria, you take it.
So, what's interesting? So, have to shout out my team that's working with me. And these are people that I have met along the way. You know, one of my closest friends, Talene Willis, I met her when I was 7 years old at Winifred Beach. Aisha Thornsberry, I met her in high school. And then Alicia Bowen, who I met in college. This year has been challenging. And the three of them who have known me forever, when I would say, if anything would come up and I would be thinking about wavering, I was like, man, can we do it this year? The three of them would always go back to their first experience at Soliciting and what it meant to them and how important it was for growing up in Jamaica for them to experience that. And they would tell you every time we have an issue and we have our team meeting and we go through and I keep saying, oh man, this is so hard. People are not calling me back. Dealing with the government officials is so hard. And they always remind me, Sabira, this is really, really, really important. If we don't do this, if you don't do this, if you and Sister P stop doing this, this culture will probably die with our generation. And I think when you say what do you draw upon, is hearing those experiences and how it has transformed people in Portland specifically, and I think across Jamaica. And just the overwhelming support. You know, iNation has started to work with us this year, and how every time I will push back and be like, boy, iNation is rough, we can't manage. And the level of support that we get from the Soliciting family, I will say, you know, managing it from overseas is tough. But the energy that I get from the people who've been doing it for a very long time. My godmother, Sister Partridge, who was in Montego Bay. I think it's so important, not just for me and Mom, Sister P. I think it's so important for the Soliciting family. And we hadn't done it for a really long time. And everybody was so excited last year. I realized that no matter how hard, no matter how tough, I have to make sure that we push through and we continue to do it because it really, really matters. Specifically, I can say for my generation, because I know if we don't do it, this entire thing will probably die off with my generation. And our kids, my kids, your daughter, Kabu, will not be able to experience anything like this if we don't continue to push forward.
You are very right. Let me take a quick break and come right back. Hold for me, please. Talking about preserving and protecting Jamaica's cultural heritage. And we're talking with Sister P and Sabira specifically within the context of the work that they're doing, their own work in this regard. Soliciting is one case. Sister P, I remember the first time I went to Soliciting, Eileen Jeffer told me that, you know, there's an event up in the mountains, and this might have been your second event. And she said, there's an event up in the mountains, and Sister P, and you must go, and you must go, and you must go, and you must call Sister P. And I remember I went up in the mountains, and this is one of the things, and this is phenomenal, right? So I've never forgotten this, is to find as an African-centered Pan-African on the island in Jamaica, an event where as you walk in, you hear the drums, and there was somebody there teaching people how to dance African dances out of continental Africa. So all know me not forget that move there. So my very first introduction is somebody literally teaching me how to dance, my own dance, which is from continental Africa, was at Soliciting. So it is within that context I want to ask you, Sister P, about the template that you had from that early, because that might have been 1992. Or was it 91 or 91?
It could have been, yeah, because the first one was 91. So I think you probably made it 1992.
Right. And so that I want to ask you about this, in that you're thinking, because obviously we have the African retention on the island, and then you have that which is continental Africa. So talk to me about that process. What was your thinking in terms of what you would highlight? What would you keep? What would you keep? What would you not keep? What would you want to foreground? Because I also remember the fight that you had from certain sections of the of the African-centered Pan-African community, Rastafari involved, to ditch the Junkuno?
No, we would never think of ditching Junkuno.
Right. But I remember that, that there was that, I don't know if you recall, that there was that energy where people are saying, we didn't want to go where Junkuno was. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yes. We've even had people who would stand on the roadside and say, don't go because they're worshipping dead people, because we used the word ancestors.
Yes.
I remember that specifically.
Yes.
Over the years, it's been I can't say a struggle, because when something is coming from inside of you, but what has happened is that, Sabira has applied to every one of the agencies involved with the tourism, all of these people, and they don't even answer. They don't even respond. And that has been most heartbreaking. But it's not surprising to me, because I don't know if you remember us having the conversation that I've always felt that if, as African people, we can't come together and make something happen, then we need to shut up. This is a responsibility of all of us as Africans to make sure, Africans in Jamaica, to make sure that we have a continuation of that culture that was given to us. She applied to everybody. Nobody, they don't even respond.
So this has been a real challenge, Siberia, for to get even the private sector, and not just private sector, but even government agencies that should be happy that there is an event that, like Fuisinging, focused on preserving and protecting our heritage, that there has been no response, that it's been a challenge for the team to get sponsorship on this.
So I will, much respect goes out to IRFM, much respect, because I will always say, from probably not day one, but very, very early on, IRA has been there since the beginning. And, I honestly could say we probably could not do it without the support of IRFM, because I think it's been a very important core part of what IRFM supports. But, Jamaica is as a person who's worked in philanthropy and worked in the nonprofit space in the United States for a number of years. Doing it in Jamaica is challenging, I think, because the processes are not spelled out. I will say, you'll get one phone number for an agency, you call that phone number doesn't work, and then you get passed to someone else, and then that person says, somebody else needs to make the approval. And then, what I will say is very disheartening is you watch other events that are nowhere near as similar or nowhere near as important to our heritage and promoting our African-centered heritage. They will get support from everybody, and I will call it the alphabet soup. But, as Sister T said, it is upon us to make sure that we are supporting ourselves.
Yes.
I think it's very, there are some individuals who have been around us since, day one. I think you have vendors like Mama Fire, who's been there from day one. The minute Sister P says, all right, so we're thinking it's time to go, they will be there and say, yes, Sister P, we did it, however, come again. Nadine has been there from day one, from up in the country. Sister P says, so we're thinking they are there and they are ready. So, we have our own people who are supporting us, and that is how we are going to do this.
Yes.
Back in the day when, slavery was abolished, if it was not up to us, we would not be here, because I think the forces and the factions who are, what would I call it, white dominant or white-centric, will always be willing to erode our culture and make theirs be the dominant culture. And I think Jamaica is one of those places where, if we are not careful, we will become too Americanized, too British, too Canadian, because we don't see the value in what we have and what we bring to the table.
And at the end of the day, nothing.
Exactly.
When you go after all of this and then nothing. Because we are in danger. We are in danger right now, Sister P, of losing so much of ourselves, so much of our African self, so much of our heritage and our culture to hedonism and debauchery and and just a kind of a neoliberal situation where it is.
What I call it,
skin out. Yeah, we are in danger of that. So the balance is critical, I think. And then to have young people taking up the mantle and moving forward. But I just like to make use my platform right here to appeal to government agencies in particular to start with, and secondary to the private sector, because the Jamaica Tourist Board, that's government, TEF and so on, JAMPRO, the Ministry of Culture, those agencies, Ministry of Finance, all of those agencies, please. This is an event that we shouldn't be asking for support. Sister P and Sibiria shouldn't be asking for support. You should be literally running to the event to assist because of what it is. All right, that takes us.
I would like to.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, I would like.
No, we're not wrapping up, Sister P. We don't hear what is coming up yet. Don't wrap me.
Okay. Okay, I didn't know how long the interview was.
No, because we need to know what's going to happen this year.
Okay.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so go ahead, Sister P.
I just wanted to say that iNation Books, he is finalizing plans for Joshua Malanga.
Mapongo?
Mapongo. Mm-hmm. Joshua Mapongo to be a speaker at Fewisinting, or to be the speaker at Fewisinting. He is finalizing that. He's sponsoring that himself. And I think for us that is a very big thing.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant move. All right, let me take a quick break and come back, and you tell us what else will be happening at Fewisinting and when. Let me take a quick break. Well, not a quick, but a break. Good to have you on board, Devon House Ice Cream Online, Sister P and Sibiria Gordon. Sister P, Sibiria, let us go now to what's going to be happening this year, because once again, Fewisinting is on in Portland, and the date is August 11. So tell us what will be happening this year.
I think Mom talked about King Mapongo being the featured speaker this year. So, as usual, we always have the poets, Rastakura and Jinsu, taking care of making sure that we have a poetry section and ensuring that, young poets are able to showcase their poetry. Sister Amina is going to be there. Muta is going to be having the African dance party as per usual. That always is such a very important part of the day, making sure that the music is there and everybody is having a good time. To be coming out, John Kono, Herbal Plastic, with a drummer that I grew up with will be there, and ensuring that all the young drummers will be performing as well. There's going to be the food, staff, vendors from all across Jamaica. As I said, people come out, they've been doing it every year. We'll have, Mama, what am I forgetting? Anything?
Well, that's, Turbo Plastic, that is the group that plays the plastic drums. And basically what they do is they bring that revival aspect to it. And one of the drummers said to me, he's not able to come this year because he's in the United States, and he said to me, he says, we don't there also. I know that Jinsu and Neto, they're always there. So it's a celebration. That's basically what it is.
Of our African heritage.
Of our African heritage. Yes. And, people get dressed up and they come out. I too can't get so dressed up anymore because when you have to work, I find that getting too dressed up is not very comfortable. Yes.
But, Mom, and one thing, I'm sorry, I forgot Fine Line Art. They do our T-shirts. I don't know, I'd be remiss for that. Then, talking about coming from far, we used to go, we went to Titchfield together in high school. So Fine Line They have sponsored our staff shirts. Yeah, this is, I keep saying, and, you know, the ground staff, Melbourne, been there with us for years. We drum together. And Melbourne now take over, and he's the first in charge of the ground. So, you know, it's, as we say, it's a family affair. The night, if you are ever able to be there, the night before thing is such, you know, all of us come together. We put out the tables and the chairs. The entire team, we have all been doing this together for a very long time. Kirk, who's from Port Antonio, and we have a good time. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention a dear friend of mine. 2 people passed on and went on to the ancestors this past year. And I will say, one of my closest friends from high school, Warren Hill, we call him Barra. I mean, he's going to be missed this year. And Bull, the drummer, and I feel so grateful to have learned to play Kumina alongside Bull. Bull passed on and went to the ancestors. So when we talk about Fusin things being a tribute to the ancestors,
as a matter of fact, I think I captured you playing Kumina last year. Yes.
You did, with Bull standing right next to me. You know, so when we talk about being a tribute to the ancestors, 2024 to me is a dedication to these 2 people who my life today, I mean, last year we were there Saturday night and the mosquitoes was almost taking us away. And Barra woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He worked for the public health department and sprayed down Somerset Falls to make sure that nobody was there and felt one mosquito bite.
I never feel any for the whole time I was there
Sunday.
Exactly.
So this year is a dedication to Bull and Barra because my life would not be what it is today without those 2 individuals.
Wow.
So I just wanted to mention that it is very important that we you know, we honor
those. So once again, it's Somerset Falls, August 11, Sunday, August 11. It's from like about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, the gates open at 8. Yes.
The gates open at 8.
Yes. And everything starts at 10. By 10 o'clock, Dunkuno will be, you know, we'll have Dunkuno Turbo Plastic will be, the energy will be started and the vibe starts at 10 o'clock.
All right.
But people come in and have their breakfast between 8 and 10.
And I tell you, this is a thing that bothers me a lot because you can't eat only so much and no more. And this is a problem I have when I go to food thing. Because you want to see how much things me pack up myself with home last year. I went straight for the Dukuno and the baking kenke from memory. And it was really delicious. So that's another thing too when we talk about the food, because you look now at the traditional foods and those, a lot of those that are coming straight from West Africa, like Dukuno, Blue Draws, Kenke. I mean, that's straight out of Ghana. I remember when we were in Ghana together, Sister P, and you point out to me and you see those women over there with the thing on them head. I Dukuno that, you know, you just make it look a bit different. You said them call it Kenke. Kenke. Yeah. So it's just a pull from Africa and literally just put it down in Somerset Falls, and then there's so much of an African retention that you're seeing there too when you talk about revival and so on. Looking forward to it, Sister P. Looking forward to it, Siberia. Obviously, there is a cost.
Yes. So with $2,000 for adults and $1,000 for children, I will, you know, I'm being a millennial, I'm going to ask everyone to follow us on social media at Suisinting JA on Instagram and Suisinting on Facebook. And this year we've added a new addition. You can, for those of our supporters who are overseas and cannot make it, we would ask that you would purchase a ticket online. If you follow us on social media, you will see how you could give us some support by giving us a donation by buying a ticket online. We added that feature this year as a way. We got a lot of feedback from people who said they probably can't make it in person, but they would love to buy a ticket and give us a donation. So if you follow us on social media, you'll be able to see how you can purchase one of those tickets.
Okay, brilliant.
I would like to add something right here, Kabu. It's, you know, Suisinting is a foundation. And over the years, what we had done was we would bring youth from inner city and give them a day. We would rent a bus for them. We would bring them over. We would feed them, you know, let them go to the falls. Last year, we weren't able to do that obviously we're just coming back. And, the support, we didn't get the support. But that is something that I know that I'm personally committed to. Growing up in Kingston and not knowing anything about our African culture. And it was such, for me that was so joyous to see these children coming out of the inner city communities where they're hearing gunshots. And they would tell me, just driving through the junction, coming over, it was such a delight for them. So hopefully we can go back to that.
This is why the sponsorship is so important, The sponsorship is really important. Let me ask you, for persons who are listening now and are thinking, this is something that I could sponsor, how do they go about doing that, sir?
So our email is suisinthingja@gmail.com. And you can send us an email, or you could drop us, you can DM us on Facebook or on Instagram. And, we could go through all that could be possible to give us a sponsorship. Because I think, as Mom said, we're doing this out of, I will say, the goodness of our heart. All of the folks I mentioned before are donating their time, they're buying their tickets out of their own pocket to come because it's really important to them. So any support would be greatly appreciated, because it is not a cheap event to put on, but it's very important to me, and I would say to my family, to ensure that we keep doing it. So, I come out of pocket as much as I can, and then what we are able to cover the day is what we're able to cover. But suisinthingja@gmail.com is the best way to get in touch with us. And then, I feel like everybody knows how to reach Sister P. So if you reach Sister P, you can figure out how you can support.
All right. Thank you so much, Sister P. Thank you so much, Sabira. And I'm sure we'll talk again before we're sitting.
Oh, one quick thing, Kabu, Miss Parchment reminds me, the bus leaves Montego Bay, Whittier Village at 6 a.m. For those of you coming from Montego Bay, Miss Parchment, I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to reach her.
Sister
Sunshine
Parchie.
Villas in Montego Bay.
Yes.
Sister Parchie, who's been there from day one, my
Of
godmother.
course.
Her bus is leaving Whittier's Village at 6 a.m. Sunday morning on the way to Suicide.
For those who go, exactly. So that's good news. And if there are any other buses leaving anywhere else, you can just let us know, and we'll share these in the spaces. Thank you so much, Sabira. Thank you so much, Sister P. Good morning, Sister Parchie, and we'll see you on the 11th.
Thank you, Kabu.
All right. Thank you, Kabu, for your unwavering support of us all these years. And again, thank you, Iris, for your continued support.
And all the best, Sabira, as you go about the business of politics now, to ensure that people register to vote.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Sister P there, and Sabira Gordon. 10 minutes now, going up to 8 o'clock. Running African, thank you so much for joining us inside of the forum this morning. By the way, we're hearing, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but in the UK, they've been having some interesting marches, not necessarily protest marches, and one led by a Tommy Robinson. So that's been on the news all of yesterday, and especially on the social media. Massive march. I don't like to use the terms, but I find myself using them more and more, and I think maybe I'm watching too much of the mainstream media. But the extreme right-wing marches, right? And so these are marches, a lot of them against immigration, because there is a new politics now, not so new, but new enough, so we can call it new, where everything immigration is considered in the woke category, and everything immigration is considered the worst thing that could happen to any country. And so we have the extreme right wing and not so extreme. As a matter of fact, if you remember this whole Rwanda plot that Rishi Sunak had dreamt up, that was an answer to the frenzy and the phobia and the fear of the other. That is somebody else coming from another country, and only reason why that other person is in your country is because you had gone to their country and mash it up. And so that they find themselves on the oceans, they find themselves on the boats, they find themselves jumping the walls and so on, into the space that you've created for yourself, which is a safer space than what you have done to their country. So this is what we're facing now. So I'm understanding that Tony Robinson, who was leading that massive march in England yesterday, that he has been arrested under anti-terror laws. And this is according to his own verified account on Twitter. The Daily Telegraph, which is another right-wing newspaper, is reporting that this follows a complaint over a film which was shown to the crowd at a march in central London yesterday, led by Mr. Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. A post on Twitter said, and I quote, "We can confirm that Tommy Robinson has been detained by police using powers afforded to them under the Terrorism Act 2000. That's right, the post continues. You read that correctly. Tommy is being held by police using counter-terrorism legislation, and they said they'll update the public when they can. So that is what's coming out of the UK. You can read up on this. I think it's important to follow this because a similar thing is happening in the US, by the way. Public Relations and Communication at the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, and Mr. Mark Blake, who is the Assistant Manager, Estate Management and Business Development. Good morning, Lorna Bailey. Good morning, Mark Blake.
Good morning, Kabu. Thank you for having us.
All right.
Good morning to you.
All right. Welcome to the space. Thank you so much for joining. It's interesting that we're using literally the tagline of the Jamaica National Heritage Trust this morning as the overarching theme for the program, which is preserving and protecting our heritage, right?
Yes, most definitely.
Exactly. The Jamaica National Heritage Trust, give me a little background to that. Give us a history. Remind our listeners how the trust developed.
Okay, the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, we are a statutory body within the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport. And we declare and designate national monuments of historical and architectural significance under the JNHD Act of 1985. So under law, we protect these sites, we protect these monuments, anything that is man-made, anything that is natural, like the fauna, the flora, fauna. So we protect them, and we also act as a regulatory body in terms of, protecting sites that are privately owned, monuments and so on. Mm-hmm. So that is what the main function of the JNHD is in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about protecting privately owned monuments, they are monuments that are privately owned?
Yes, they are not owned by government entities. Mm-hmm. They are privately owned by persons, individuals out there. But if they have a property that they think have some form of, history, and they feel within themselves that they would want it to be protected, mm-hmm. they would approach the JNHD, they would go through the application process. Mm-hmm. We have a team of highly qualified staff who are qualified in research, archaeology, conservation, preservation, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So they would apply to the JNHD. They can go on our website at www.jnhd.com, mm-hmm. and they would fill out the application form. Mm-hmm. And then we would, when we receive that form, we would contact the individual. We would make arrangements to do a site visit, mm-hmm. so that the research process can take place. So it will go through all of that once all the documentation, once all the legalities are satisfied in terms of getting confirmation or having confirmation of proof of ownership of the property. Mm-hmm. And then all of those documents are collected, put together, and put before a subcommittee of the Board of Trustees and that committee would review the application, look at the history, why this property should be declared, and so on. And once a decision is taken to declare the property, then it is sent to our Board of Trustees for ratification, and the declaration is done. And then we'll do the preservation notice, where we would publish in the newspaper. It is gazetted in Parliament, and then that would be the final process.
What are some of the most, 2 or 3 of the most popular, well-known areas or places that people can relate to immediately that would fall under this privately owned monument?
Okay, I will ask Mr. Blake to come in on that one, because he works in the management department. Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning again.
So you said with 3 of the more popular.
Yeah, just our listeners get an idea as to what it is that we're talking about.
Well, there are many. There are over almost 300 sites that are declared. Mrs. Bailey said some of them are natural and some of them are part of the built environment. So, in Kingston, Devon House is a national monument. Some of them are part of what we call a protected national heritage and not national monument. So, the Blue and Junker Mountains is a natural site, and it's also perhaps our most, internationally known site, because it's a World Heritage Site. It's listed as a World Heritage Site.
United Nations, yes.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So that's 2, and a third one.
Woodside? Because I know that you named Woodside, all of Woodside, recently, a few years ago, actually, because of a Taino heritage.
Right, so Woodside in St. Mary is also one of our more recently declared sites. And, so those are 3. 3, but, a lot of persons wouldn't know about Woodside, but, it is one that is... Sorry, go ahead.
What can you tell us? I know I'm going off a little bit, but what can you tell us about Woodside? Why was it named a national heritage? That entire community, Woodside, Rock Spring, that entire area named a national heritage site.
Okay, so from my recollection, we were approached by Dr. Bradbach, Erna Bradbach, who's an author and a member of academia, and she asked us to come and do an investigation there. From my recollection as well, I recall that there were, it seemed to be a Taino site, and because of a number of carvings and in some caves. And
well, Mr. Blake, okay, I know it's up there me come from. So
okay, I see. But I'm trying to go off number because
I took you by surprise on it. But just so our listeners know, because we talk about it a lot in this space, that the Taino heritage in Woodside, Rock Spring, that entire area of St. Mary is phenomenal. And I talk a lot about the research and the investigation done by the Jamaica National Heritage Trust to the point where it was made a national heritage site. I think it's a good place for students to keep, just without even a school, but parents, just go up to Woodside, man. Take your family and go, check out the sites up there. All right. So, the other day we had a conversation on this program, and one of the areas that came up, and we weren't quite sure of what it was. We know that it's a national heritage site or monument, if you will, but we didn't have enough information, is actually the Blue Lagoon. What can you tell us about that site?
So it's one of our more controversial sites. Sorry, Mrs. Bailey.
No, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Yes, what happened there, what has been happening there is that the JNHT started to intervene about a decade or more ago, from 2011, because there was the construction of the creation of an artificial beach in the lagoon, and so because our gives us the power to preserve sites for the benefit of the island, it is the people of Jamaica, we sought to declare the site so that it wouldn't become totally unchanged. Now, when a site is declared, it means, as Mrs. Bailey explained, that it has to go through a process for there to be any more development. And then Section 5 of the Act, JNHT Act, clearly defines what development is. It is building, engineering, mining, any operations in and over land. So, because of that, JNST saw the significance of the site, and we put together a team of people to do the research, and when the research was done, the site was finally declared in 2018. There are a number of challenges with the site, but we are working through them. Right, we are taking a community development approach towards resolving some of these issues. We have a broad stakeholder consultation, which includes, Mrs. Bay, can you remind me of the agencies, please?
Okay, we have NEPA involved. We have the Maritime Authority, right? Yes, we have the residents as well. Over there, we have the Alligator, yes, Sansan, right? We have Alligator Head Foundation. That's a part of it. Yes, TPDCO is involved as well because they do training for us, and they are very much involved in the regulations going on out there. Yes, and we even have the Blue Lagoon Alliance men because they were originally operating in this space and so on. Right, and we also have Maritime Police and so on. Yes.
So in addition to that, we have the Portland Municipal Corporation and let's see, am I missing anybody? So we have a broad stakeholder consultation which involves government and non-government agencies. And one of the challenges that we are currently trying to overcome is to restore or get the men formalized so that they can restart their water sporting activities. By all indications, NEPA so far indicated that a beach license will be granted, and this would mean that they can launch from the end of the road. We did an assessment of the existing boardwalk, and it was recommended by the coastal engineer that the boardwalk be repaired. So we are currently seeking funding to do that activity in tandem with getting the beach license. So that's where we are currently.
So you envision that it will be fully open to the public without any encumbrance in short order. This is what I hear you saying.
As it is now, it is fully open to the public. There's no charge. The Jamaican public and anybody actually can go down there and access to the water. What is not currently being done is the water sporting activities, which is rafting. That was there before, and that was a permanent feature. However, we are working together to get the initiative formalized because it takes a process. After the beach license is received from NEPA, we have to approach the TPDCO, and they have to give us an attractions license. And this has to be done in tandem with the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. But as Mrs. Bailey reminded me, everybody's at the table, and it's just a matter of going through the rigors of processing.
How optimistic are you that this will be done before the year is out?
Well, we are working as fast as we can, and we are taking it through the processes. So we are keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay. What about the road? What about the road? Is there the access to the Blue Lagoon itself? Because that road was locked off recently.
Well, the road is managed by the Portland Municipal Corporation. So I believe that, that would be a question that could be posed to them. I believe that they would be, in a better position to address the issue on the road. Yes.
All right. So I know there's a big event coming up. Obviously, IRFM has always been a massive part of this, and this is part of preserving and protecting our heritage that the Jamaica National Heritage Trust started. May I just say to you, Miss Lorna Bailey, and to Mr. Mark Blake, started with IRFM.
Yes.
Right. So I want to get that out there properly because keep leaving us off of it. We just need to come and broadcast, but we're not getting the credit for having started this event with the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. Anyway.
Oh, my.
we were proper partners, and we're not leaving it. So we're not leaving it.
Don't worry. Don't worry. We're one big family, and you know how it is with family sometimes.
Exactly.
But don't worry. This year, don't worry. You will be getting special treatment and all of that. And I'll be taking the chocolate tea in a Mel mug and giving it personally to you. So don't worry.
All right. So we're talking about the July 31 event as usual at Seville, but I do have to take a quick break. Can you both hold for me, please?
Sure.
Thanks. Mrs. Lorna Bailey, JP, Director, Public Education, Public Relations and Communication at the JNHT on the line. This hour is brought to you courtesy of Devon House Ice Cream, a scoop of Jamaica. All right, so let's go to the event that's how many years now? This is from 1998? 1997. Right.
Yes.
And a quick little background to it, if you will, Lorna or Mark, who has that information to how it started.
Okay.
Or you want me to do it?
You are well informed. Kabu.
Yes.
But this started in 1997. And, it came out of research that was being conducted on the Seville Heritage Park site. And we were able, the team from the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, in collaboration with Syracuse University in the United States, they were able to locate the burial site of the Africans on the Seville plantation. And the burial site was behind the Great House. And we were able to exhume 4 bodies, 4 skeletal remains. 3 were males and 1 was female. So what was happening in 1997 was that the then Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson, he announced and declared for the restarting of the emancipation celebrations to take place in Jamaica. So we find it fit to use that opportunity to have a reburial of 3 of the remains. The 3 males were reburied. It was a very significant highlight in the history of Jamaica. And those 3 bodies were reburied in front of the Great House to make a statement that the Africans are people. They were people. They should not have been treated like stocks, like what they were referred to back in the enslavement. So we did the ceremonial reburial of 3 of them, and you were there, Kabu and other members, that were on board at the time. And from there, that's how Emancipation Jubilee started. And then in the following year, 1998, the female skeletal remains was repatriated to Ghana in Africa. That skeletal remain went back through the door of no return.
Which made it the door of return. And we were there for that too. We covered that. And let me just say quickly, because the team that did that included Sister Minnie, of course, Nana Rita Marley, and I'm saying this because we keep leaving out Nana Rita Marley out of this, but she was integral to this. Obviously, IRFM, Sister P, Sister Patchy. So this was a team that worked really hard to get the remains back to Ghana. We broadcast on that live, but everyone knows that every year since that we've been having the Emancipation Jubilee, massive celebrations, and this year obviously no exception. What's going to be happening this year?
Okay, so we are celebrating under the theme Feel the Spirit, and we have a host of activities as usual. We have the artisan village, we have the food court where traditional food will be served. And in the food village, in the food court, we have complimentary chocolate tea being served right throughout the night. But persons need to take their enamel mugs to get their chocolate tea. If they don't own any or they can't get one to borrow from their grandmother or their grandfather, they can get enamel mugs to purchase at the JNHT booth on the property. So we have a nice lineup. The show runs, gates open at 6 p.m. and there's a shuttle service. So the patrons coming in, they park down at the bottom, at the entrance in the general parking lot, and they'll be shuttled up to the Great House where the event is taking place. Now, you need a ticket to get in. The event is free of charge to the public, but you need a ticket.
It is free, and let me just underscore that it is free to get in, but you need a ticket to get in. So how do you get a ticket?
All right, they can get, the persons in St. Anne area, they can get tickets at Civil Heritage Park. If you're in Kingston area, you can get it at the Jamaica National Heritage Trust office, located at 79 Duke Street. If you did not get an opportunity to get a ticket, don't worry, just come. We will have tickets at the gate for a person because we always have a good amount of tickets at the gate for persons to get into the venue. So just come. Gates open at 6. Showtime is 8 p.m. And I must highlight that the JNHD, we're celebrating 65 years. We celebrated 65 years of preserving heritage and in Jamaica in December last year, and we're continuing that celebration. So you will see a video presentation at 8 p.m. to highlight the work of the JNHD over the 65-year period and the direction in which the JNHD is going. And then we start the program at 8:15. Now, between 8:15 and 12 midnight, you will see the various traditional cultural groups performing. You will hear from your officials giving their remarks and so on. And you will hear from our minister. She will be doing the main address. Closer to midnight, our minister, Olivia Grange. And at 12 midnight, you will have the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, this is a part of the program that people take very seriously. We hold it dear to our heart, and it's a moment where we reflect on what happened in 1838 when we were granted freedom. And the Emancipation Proclamation was read in Emancipation Square in Spanish Town. But just think back how your ancestors felt to know that they are finally free. So we are doing that at 12 midnight, and then we do go into the floral tribute where our officials, led by our minister, Olivia Grange, she will lead the delegation to lay floral tribute on the tomb to commemorate the ancestors. Now, there's something big happening after that. The National Commission on Reparations will be doing a special feature, and I won't give out too much details on that, but persons need to come and see what is going to happen.
When you say a special feature, do you mean an event or?
It's a special feature. It will be a presentation, and we have some special guests that are coming in from Europe to make an address. They have an announcement to make. And that is something that Jamaicans need to be there to witness. It will be streamed right across the world. So persons, you need to tune in. If you're not there physically at Civil this year, you need to tune in. It is streamed on all our social media pages of the JNHD, JCDC, Ministry of Culture, social media pages, so like YouTube and our Facebook channels, and also on PBCJ. It is going to be streamed live on television as well. TVJ will be bringing their live broadcast. So persons need to see the show this year. It is very important. And then when that segment is finished, we go into the pop segment. And we have a nice lineup in the pop segment. We have persons like Admiral Bailey, Leroy Sibbles, we have George Nooks, and then we have other persons performing in that segment. And then we go into gospel. And then we close out with Kumina. And in the gospel segment, we have persons like Sister Pat, who will be performing, Lubert Levy, and so on. And then we close out with Kumina at 6 a.m. So it is a host of activities that is happening, and it is very important for everybody. This is a family event.
Yes.
It's important for the older persons to bring the children, bring them and come and let them see what we are doing in preserving our heritage, preserving our culture for them, because we have to pass on the knowledge that we have. We have to teach them to say, hey, look, this is the reason you are here today. It's because of what our ancestors have gone through.
Exactly.
They have gone through the struggles of slavery. They endured a lot. They fought for our freedom. They have to think about persons like Paul Bogle, teach them about Paul Bogle, who Paul Bogle is, Marcus Garvey, Nani, all of those things. So all of these elements.
Take your family out, take your children out.
Yes.
It's a free event. Remember, you need a ticket. Just take the entire family, and gates open at 6 o'clock. Mr. Mark Blake, because we have just 2 minutes, I'm going to give you the last 2 minutes on this. You can comment on the event itself if you have anything to add, but also to say what, if anything, is happening at Seville in terms of the development of Seville.
Well, work at Seville is ongoing. It's one of our major sites. Currently, I'm not the person who is a point person in the department who deals with Seville, but I do know that the work is ongoing with regards to the grounds. And one of the features that we are trying to develop is something for the kids, but I don't have the details on it really.
Okay, so we look forward to that.
And yes, and just to say that the museum is there. Persons can go and view to learn of the history of the Taino, the Spanish, the British, and the African. So the museum tells you the story and take you through the timeline of that. And the museum was recently renovated, and thankfully by the funding received from the Tourism Product Development Corporation.
Oh, I should go.
The company, yes,
so I go have a look at that.
Yes,
right.
Yes, it was recently, yes. The exhibition and everything was recently done under that project.
All right. So once again, July 31 at Seville. It's Emancipation Jubilee. You know how it goes down here. So we hear so one day slag available. At Seville, we're thing there.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lorna Bailey. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark Blake. I invite you in the studio to talk about other more serious issues another time. Please.
Another time. Anytime you're ready, reach out to us.
All right. We'll do. Thank you both so much.
All right. Take care. Thank you too.
All right. Bye. This hour is brought to you courtesy of Devon House Ice Cream, a scoop of Jamaica. We're just so I just like enough of my friends. I'm telling me that I'm watching they're watching thing here, Olympics, and I listen to me for the TV channel and I listen to the radio. Morning to you, K. Dot. Good morning to you, Andrew Lamsden. Akinsania, my brother, I see where you're going to be at Fuisinting, Bushakunde. Thank you so much. Dr. Lloyd Eubank Green, I'm trying to get you, my brother, not getting you at all. So if you can make that link with me. Dr. Lloyd Eubank Green, you're up on my mind. All right, 29 minutes after 8 o'clock, and later on, we're going to be speaking with Amina Blackwood Meeks right after the Cash Pot, which is coming up roundabout now, because time on IRIE FM is 8:30. As we saw, holds a PhD in cultural studies. She is an award-winning writer, actress, storyteller, founder, artistic director, Ntukuma, the Storytelling Foundation of Jamaica. And really and truly, she doesn't like the doctor thing when we call her. But so I'm just going to go now and say good morning, Sister Amina.
Good morning, my sister and friend Kabu. Happy Independence.
How you doing? Listen, I am so happy to have you on at this time because you represent, when we say Jamaica culture and heritage, and we say Miss Lou, and then we say Amina.
We give thanks.
Yes.
We give
because it is what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for the work that you have done ensuring. I remember, you know, Amina, when we spoke about wise storytelling.
We out on a limb. We out on a limb, but we stay the course.
Yes. The language, the storytelling, just everything. All right, so let us talk about this now. Because one of the things that you reminded me last time we talked about culture and so on, you said, these things are homogeneous now, and them not static. Things are fluid and things move and so on. Right. So when we talk about preserving culture, preserving heritage, obviously it's two different things. But what challenges are immediately inherent in that?
They are close cousins because we also talk about cultural heritage.
Yes.
And I have been thinking about it since I was advised that we were going to be discussing this morning. Mm-hmm. And the little outer part of me start by saying when it becomes a campaign issue, people go and take it seriously.
Kabu, girl.
When nobody can say, I want to represent you in Parliament, without saying how they are going to allow us to understand our culture and our heritage and the importance, then we will lift it to another level.
Yes.
But culture, I'm going to use a loose definition, a popular definition, and you will see why. People say culture is about how we live. And how we live is a representation of what we believe and how we have been raised. What we have not been raised to do is to question how we live. Let me give you my most recent example. My most recent example is a video that has been circulating on social media with the Jamaica Olympics team having a grand time. And them are dancing because we love dance and we must be among the best dancers in the world. But when you listen to the lyrics of the song, that name Drift, you say really and truly, nobody has listened to these lyrics since politicians are danced to it, since there is a challenge about who can do the best drift. Even the term itself, I don't find to be complimentary because we're not a people who are just drifting. We are purposeful, or we're supposed to live in a purposeful way. So even that recent example for me calls us to question our culture, question the things about our culture, the way we live, that we so love and revel in. And once we begin to question that, then we say, who is to lead the charge about the education of the nation? Let me give you another example. It has become the way some of us live to tell black people, say, them head picky and natty. And them don't like it.
Right.
But they don't question when we straighten our hair and try to look like other people. And they don't question when other people let out them hair and make it fly in whatever direction. That's their culture. That's what they believe, that we are obnoxious and should not be seen except we try look like them. And then somebody has to take somebody, Chaka the Supreme Court, to say, hello, this is discrimination. And you know that who must speak about it don't speak about it yet. And you know that since that happened, there have been reports of other situations recurring where people believe it is their culture, that is their value, to tell other people that the way they live and look and what they believe in is obnoxious. So the culture is not.
So culture is becoming then, because you talk about the way we live. So and values are inherently connected to culture, a part of culture.
Right.
So, because I'm hearing you loud and clear. So in that case, when we talk about preserving culture, we then have to determine, we have to have a conversation about that culture.
The things that we value. Things that we value. It's a difficult conversation, and it's a conversation some people don't want to have. And some people, like I just said this, include us, because we're not saying that there's any holy place in hell. We're talking about the collective.
Yes.
In the collective, it's a conversation that some people do not want to have. So you will hear things like, "Me not have to follow what society say," as if we're not part of the society. Right. And as if we don't have standards and values in other areas of our lives. When we enter, for example, a JCDC competition, we know what the measurement of gold is. We know what the measurement of silver and bronze and certificate. When our children write the PEP exam, we know what is the measurement of did they get their choice schools or not. So we do have some sense of what is a standard. We just don't want to apply it to our personal life.
I want to go back to drift, right?
Yes.
Because you raise a very, very important point. I've been asking that question in that space, or in this space also, and asking it about teachers in particular, because it's a song and a dance that's happening in the schools. So are we, and just to play upon the word, are we then, in terms of our values, are we then just adrift on a sea and a river that just take us anywhere? And I'm saying this within the context of a point that P.J. Patterson raised a long time ago when he brought to the space the idea of values and attitudes and how we're going to deal with that. You remember that he was laughed at.
Yes,
about that.
Yes.
How important is it then for a system to be put in place, and this is, I know I'm treading on some serious waters here, but work with me. How important is it for us to, and you've been in education, and I saw what you did with the Marcus Garvey in schools. Even you have to go on 50 different bench and you still get it in schools.
Yes.
So in this way, how important is it then for this thing to be included in the curriculum, in the Sunday school, in the spaces in which we are operating, whether as children or as adults, in terms of the values and attitudes to begin to impact and to affect culture?
The space in which we operate is extremely problematic. There is the formal and the informal curriculum, and there is incidental learning. There are the things that we are taught, and there are the things that are caught in the way we operate.
Yes.
And they are not always complementary, and they are not always heading in the same direction. But make us start with the education system, because that is very, very important. Taxpayers pay their money, and we set up a system to ensure that we turn out a certain kind of citizen whom we are proud to call Jamaican. You know that the first thing that I think needs to be done is a serious revision of what we mean by education. A serious revision. Yes. People can't leave school after 5 years, well, maybe 10, 5 in primary and 5 in secondary, and 12 if they do the sixth form program. And then we're saying that they're not capable of critical thinking. You know, which part you teach them to think critically? Or did you just teach them to swallow some information and regurgitate it?
Yes.
And very often, we have to go back to the fact of the origin of the structure of the education system, and therefore the content. And the structure to have some people are paid with dog, some people clean the lawn, and some people who we call the bright ones that do something else. So we really need to look at that.
Why do you say the origin? Why is the origin important? Why do we need to go back to the origin?
The origin is important because we have an education structure that continues to be related to the industrialization of Europe, where them had streams of people to perform different tasks. And so we inherit that system from our colonial times of we need to stream them up. So we have A stream and B stream and C stream. And no matter how often we say, let's look at the content of what we're doing, we are still streaming our people. So if we were about equity and equality, then I wouldn't have to choose 7 different schools to go to when I write myself. Could I just choose any school and know that any school that I get into, I'm getting the same quality of education. And the quality of education is not just what is in the books. And sometimes what is in the books is 5 and 10 years in the past, because it takes about 5 years to revise the curriculum. So by the time we finish review and revise and test, even what we're bringing in as new is already old and ancient. And the British themselves, we must still call them British, whoever they are, that part of the world, they have moved away from that kind of streaming. But because we always need somebody to authorize and value and tell us what to do and how to do it, then we're not even seeing that the people that we're trying to please not doing what they taught us to do anymore. So part of this culture that we're talking about is how we are tied to a mental enslavement, and why Marcus Garvey is so important, especially in these days, about us understanding what it means to emancipate yourself from mental slavery. There is no way that regurgitation of the history of Europe can be essential to the education of a Jamaican citizen in 2024. But we don't see it that way, and so we continue to behave like a butcher. We cut out a little piece and blood spill, sometimes literally, but we are talking figuratively now, and cut out a little piece. And when we need to just behave like a surgeon and say, this part of the body is not working, and we're going to get rid of it and fix it. So the origin is very, very, when the Grenada situation happened in 1983, a group of psychologists from the United States go down there. They go examine what go on, because they love examine where now. And part of what they said after their examination was that it would take at least, and I always emphasize that phrase, 150 years for the Grenadian psyche to recover from those 7 days of invasion. So origin is important. If it ever take 150 years to recover from 7 days of invasion, how long is it going to take us to heal from 300 and something years of slavery?
Of enslavement.
Right.
And I hear you say now, so this system, which, and you're saying that we need to look to revise this thing we call education to understand what we mean and redefine it if we need to. But that this system, that this has a direct impact on what we are calling culture.
Right.
So that what do you preserve? I have to go to a break. I mean, I just want to think it through when we come back now to kind of unpack that a bit. So let me take a quick break.
Okay.
Wow. Amina is giving us food for thought. You're talking, Amina, about... Thank you so much, by the way, Amina, for staying up. We know the break's kind of long. You're talking about critical thinking, and one of the things you're pointing us to is that our education system as it currently is set up in such a way that it is, and I hear the unspoken, it is negatively impacting that which we're calling our culture, that which is our culture. Can you unpack that for me? Let us look at
all
that
right.
more closely.
So I had made the distinction between the formal curriculum, the informal curriculum, and incidental learning. That children learn by what is taught, but we learn more by what is caught.
Yes.
I'm going to come back to the formal system in a little while. Because me think me done with it. The rote learning and the lack of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really want to dismiss them.
Yes.
But I know we have so much to talk about in so little time. Let's look at some of the informal curriculum and some of what is caught.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we have become caricatures, and I used to say we have become caricatures of ourselves. Mm-hmm. But me not know if that was ever a caricature of we. Now, I'll give you some example.
Yes.
And we love it, and we talk about being able to express ourselves, and people pay for us to be caricatures of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Why we must talk so loud? And we can't say nothing unless the word them lang out, and all of these things, and who is that? Mm-hmm. Who is that? Mm-hmm. And when we're going to do a commercial, I mean, I say nothing about your commercial, you know. To the Lamb, hallelujah. When we're going to do a commercial, it has been loud. And we can't recognize the people them I say when them I lick their lip. And somebody pays money to have a product promoted in that fashion.
Yes.
That's incidental learning. That's the informal curriculum.
So, Amina, what are we, the question then is, what are we becoming? And then I want...
Profits, and who profits by our becoming that? Who profits by our becoming that? And look at the schizophrenia now. Yes. Because when we have national events like the very important Emancipendence, however we analyze the extent to which we are independent and what more needs to be done, these 6 days are very, very important.
Yes.
But we could also talk about our Heritage Month celebrations. Mm-hmm. When we come to those national events, we go searching for the best of us to put on display. And we can't find it because we treat the best of us as something which is seasonal. Mm-hmm. You know how much good conscious artists no get no work until these 6 days or that month in October.
But I want to stop you a minute, because this is one of the reasons why I called you, because even what and we are in the space, I'm standing in the space, you're in the space, but I'm noticing a change, that even that is changing, that it doesn't matter anymore what time it is and what season it is. Whatever this we are becoming is what we carry to that space anyway.
You are so absolutely right. You perhaps know that I have been involved with most of Grand Gala as a scriptwriter since Grand Gala came back in 2008. Yes. A number of them I have not been involved with, and one of the years I wasn't involved, I sat in the audience at the stadium because I love that, you know, I love pageantry. Yes. I love to see we come out, you know, with colors and just Grand Gala is such a wonderful example of the best of us, of the and football too. And football, when football player, and you go out, you say, yes, I'm proud to be a Jamaican. Yes. You just love one another, and you share, and you talk to the next person. And as Miss Lou would say, not a stone was fling, not a bad word sting, and you love it. Yes. Well, one year when I wasn't involved actively, I sat in the stadium and them had these huge monitors, and I watched the monitor because you see things more clearly on the monitor. So I watched the monitor. The MC had on a dress that could look like a negligee. But the MC also had green contact lenses. Me shock. Me say, how the person that turned the MC for the Grand Gala? And then immediately I found the answer. Yes. Because all during the year, we, the nation, politicians, advertisers, business owners, make that person feel like the best. Yes. No. If Grand Gala is when the best of us is on display, you dare not exclude such a person. You understand?
So what does this mean for us though as a nation? When you talk about nation building, when you talk about operating at a global level, a national level first, of course, but just operating at a global level. What does this mean for us? Are we becoming so insular that we're not able to see what we're becoming?
Yes, I think we're not able to see because dollars run things. And we grumble. The other day, I heard Muta, on Thursday, I heard Muta talking about how reggae singers are saying people thief the reggae music from where. And him I said that's because we don't curate it and paraphrase it now. Yes. And one of the examples he gave was how we go abroad and we're in a club with 250 people, but we want to charge a fee like say it's 3 million people in the audience. So we perhaps are not conscious of how we're sabotaging ourselves in pursuit of a big fat bank account because that is how we have been educated in the informal spaces. That unless I can put a digit and put 9 zeros after the digit and that becomes your salary, you are worthless. So the things that make us worthwhile as human beings, we are not putting enough value on. You know, you mentioned Miss Lou at the beginning. But we also need to talk about who or what came before Miss Lou. Yes. So we see that we who are doing the work are not flukes. We are part of the relay. We have to talk about Philip Sherlock. We have to talk about James Berry. We have to talk about all of the people them who came before that, Andrew Salke, and document who we are in our stories.
And so that takes me to the point that you raised earlier when you talk about are we going to raise a question as to who will lead the process, or do we need leaders for the process? Or because we talk about a leaderfulness situation in this space, sometimes we have to understand that too, because you know that even that in itself is properly structured. But do we need this? How do you begin to lead this process? We know we got education. We got education. But what I hear you saying about education seem to me is something that you've said many times. It's not the first time you're saying it. We haven't really seen much change over the years. What other agency?
Facilities are important. And I hope my wonderful friends who work in tourism, from the ministry to the board to all of the agencies of tourism are listening. And I have had conversations with some of them, and I know that some of them take it seriously. That we can't develop promote Jamaica as a cultural mecca and ask people to come and enjoy our culture if the culture is not curated. The culture has to be curated. It can't just be a little village where me go and put one hibiscus in me here. I haven't been through Fern Gully in a long time, but we have some hibiscus people that promote us as the culture, and them really destroying very important elements that influence culture. When them going to Fern Gully now, and them broke off the hibiscus every morning, and them construct things very beautifully constructed, because me can't do that, but them stand up inside of it and a tourist come now and pose. And this is how we promote our flora, that right? This is how we promote our flora. So that needs to happen as well. We need facilities. All who are sing and are together sing, and the children them vote and buy phone card. We need facilities. When we see some of the places that our children rehearse, and the first time them see a stage is when them arrive at Little Theatre for the finals of the JCDC competition. You cannot believe that our children rehearse on that tree, wherever them rehearse, and come at town. So everything is everything. What are the facilities that exist that tell our children that what you're doing is important and is beyond the gold or silver or no medal that you win when you come into Kingston? So we need everybody to get on board. We need spaces in the public media. And I know Miss Lou did go through hell. She did say it all the time, and that's her phrase.
Yes.
Go through hell when she had space on radio. Children always loved her television program.
Mm-hmm.
But when she had space on radio, you know how much month pass and Miss Lou not get pay, but at least she had space on radio.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how much time them take me off a radio because them say nobody now listen, and I hope the radio station now listen and not say them take me off. I'm gonna take off me. I did not take off myself, and then you COVID. They say them I take me off because the program was COVID, right? And people are saying to me 5 years later,
yes.
What happened to your storytelling program?
Yes.
But the radio station did say it now make money. And one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is money the only element, the mathematically calculated?
Yes.
Is that the only thing that we need?
And you know, I mean, and this is a very good point you make, because media, I mean, especially now more than ever, media is critical when we're talking about preserving and protecting heritage, cultural heritage. When we're talking about where are we going as a people with a chaos our community, media is critical, because we already have the mainstream media, we have the mainstream alternative media, we have the social media, you can't name them out. But I see something, for example, happening on TikTok. If you go down the Jamaica TikTok, the hole, if you go down that hole, you drift look like it's a choir song. Right. And if you see what our young people are doing, because so many of our young people in their 20s, 20, 21, 22, 23, they are in these spaces, and it's a whole other kind of I don't have no word for it, but there's
I know, my sister. I have established a TikTok account, you know.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 months now, and every day I say, Amina, we are going to put on this.
Well, this is the thing now, and this is why your storytelling...
You are overshadowed. Me not know how to make an important point in 3 seconds.
Yes, you can.
Understand the depth of what I'm talking about.
Yes, you can.
That kind of calculation, a different kind of mindset.
Okay, let us, I want to come to this mainstream media, Amina, and to say, because you see your storytelling, taken off radio, no, them tell us, it's money at the end of the day, because these are all commercial radio. So my thing is, if the responsibility of building a better society, a better nation, it has to lie somewhere. And go back to the point you raised. Who is going to lead? Does there need to be a calling together in the way that P.J. Patterson meant it when he talked about values and attitudes, right? And to say, look here, man, make we come together, right? Yes or no? All the different agencies, whether church, school, you name it, tourism board, everybody, police, everybody, want to come right? Yes or no? And we design. Here's the thing we design for begin to change this, and then you roll this out in every single space, including the media. And this is just my solution, but let me throw it to you to see what do you think of
we do need a calling together. Let me say this though, that people will come to their own conclusion no matter where we try, because I must say, to conclude that part of Take Me Off a Radio, them pay me $1 million. And I said, but this is so important. You don't even have to pay me. And a global brand. They don't understand it. So that is the first thing. The second thing is you're right. You're right about us coming together. And maybe we can't all come together as one just yet. Mm-hmm. But all the people who work with children, and I've been saying to my sisters and brothers who work with children, make us come together. Make us together and say, graduation have come, and it's the message we're going to deliver for this year when them invite us out to come speak at graduation or Heritage Week or whatever. And some of us have started that conversation. What is the message that we carry? And so maybe other groups can do that. The uniform groups can do that. The churches can do that. And everybody might not get on board at the same time, but a nanny one did walk. And so it is important that we take that walk when the path is clear, because we have to start somewhere.
I mean, let me ask you this. Are we, and I don't want to sound alarmist, but are we near to a crisis?
I have learned on a spiritual level that the universe cannot tell us no. And so we have to ask questions that yes is correct and yes, Lego, what Bob Marley calls a positive vibration. So I say, can Jamaica get better? And the universe has to say yes and open the opportunities for me to make my contribution for making Jamaica better. Because if me ask the question the other way around, I mean, not ask it. The universe going to tell me yes, and the universe can go show me how yes can be when I want.
Yes.
So there is a way in which we have to language and approach what we want as if we believe that spirit and spirituality matter. In can I remember how to make kenke? You know, they never come back to that.
Yes.
When say yes. And then one day we are walk and we do not think about kenke, and we see the corn and the universe say, pick that piece of corn there and carry it home, and we don't know what. In other words, we have to ask the questions the way that will open the positive vibrations for us. So I'm not saying that we don't focus on our sisters and brothers who don't even recognize that a change is required. I'm saying make us sure that the change is better than where we are at the moment, and let them want to come into it by example. By example. So one time, you know, one young man did come to fix my roof. It was near to a hurricane time, and me love one like me a Girl Scout and do everything that me can do to be ready. And he must fix my roof. And one prominent politician, Depan radio or TV, wherever I was, I talk about in boots. And you know the brand where I talk about.
We'll get the clocks from Daddy.
Because me love talk to myself. Me I say, but them shoes, they cost $26,000 a pair. And that in my campaign pan. And the young man, who at the time was 30, so younger than my son, overheard me talking to myself and said, but Amina, I know you must talk to you now. Not talk to you. You must talk to people who value themselves by the price of the shoes or dip on them foot. So there is always going to be competition in the space. There is always going to be this arena of contestation of values and what we mean by culture and how we understand caricature. And we win to the extent that we make the positive tip the balance in favor of our vision for the place in which we want to live. We want to live here, you know. We want to live here.
Yes.
The investors, them want to come here for the rest of Vision 2030.
Yes, you said the point I'm making that because it is a good, look here, it articulated, it makes a lot of sense. But it was never envisioned by us. So the vision come out of the WEF for every single Caribbean country and in Africa, everybody have the same vision. Now, here's the thing. When you articulate the vision, when we as a people say, what does it mean to be Jamaican? And we answer that question and make everyone want contest about it, and you see what happened. What does it mean to be Jamaican? What do you want for your children? What you want for your love? What you want for your life? You know, I think we need to ask ourselves those questions. Well, let me ask you this, Amina, as we wrap. So then, when we talk about that preservation of the cultural heritage, some we have to look at, some we have to accept, and some we have to throw out.
And some will have to dash away. You're so right. There are things that were wrong in the culture, in the heritage from day one. Woman a heavy load is one of my best example. Where the folk song they come from? How our lips have liver and she wear lipstick. Which part that come from? And all of those gender and race insensitive, derogatory things. That maybe that is part of where the caricature come from. That a long time where met mock of ourselves. And as we know, culture is also an accumulation of thought and feelings and experience. But yes, we have to look at the continuum and say that was never right. I mean, I want it. Once upon a time, we used to be able to distinguish urban culture from rural culture, and sometimes even today, when I go to schools out of Kingston, I have to say, no, show me the dance and the song that will come out of Kingston. Show me what I am going to be in awe that I didn't know that this thing existed. Like when me tell one set at school, say me nah come back up there, you know, because me not like how the road that climb up the hill and it don't have no retaining walls. And the principal say, all right then, me go organize all of the school them for the there and spend a week. And I say, which part me I go stay? And one parent put me up. And when me come back at home, me must about 10 pounds fatter because your mother fried dumpling when she fry a map in time. And if me not eat it, she bakes.
Which is part of our culture.
Such a wonderful experience for me, and it's part of the culture of hospitality and accommodating people who come to help you, and all of these things. We have to find those pockets in Jamaica and say, this is where we want to preserve this. The little lady who tell me say it should grow up, never knowing say you could have sell breadfruit. That's something you put on your gate and say the breadfruit tree ready, and anybody who wanna have breadfruit come. And you cannot sell guava because you're gonna sell guava. No, there are still those pockets that exist in Jamaica that we need to find and big them up and stop cover one crime story for the whole 7 days of the week, like they are the only thing that will happen. And so that when somebody have manners, you put it as a ray of hope. How can having manners be a ray of hope when we don't laugh after PJ Patterson and say, which party ma go with values and attitudes? And now we have replaced that with raising ladies and gentlemen. And if you can't put on a evening gown and jacket and tie, and you 69 and folk, you're not a ladies and a gentleman. But your manners is rotten. You know, and the best of who we are can't be celebrated just as a ray of hope. As important as that is, it must be, this is who I am, and this is what I want my grandchildren to be, not just to become, but to be right now in this space.
You know, you're texting, nobody doesn't answer phone calls anymore, so you know, you're texting and so on. So we really are in a spot. I think, I mean, do you think that for us at this crossroads that we find ourselves at as a nation, if you were to, big things may talk about now, big people something. If you were to advise those who have the authority and the wherewithal to make it happen, what would be the advice to them in terms of what we can do to kind of cauterize where we're going and to reset this process, this.
I hope our friend Bert Samuels is listening. We would have put number 1, cultural reparation on the reparation agenda.
Yes.
How do we fix who we are? Because if we can't fix who we are, we're not going to take care of the community centers. We are going to waste the little money we come. We're not going to trust who forget it, to spend it right. So there is a way in which cultural reparation is put Marcus Garvey on the reparation agenda, no man. Put Marcus Garvey on that. It is so important that we learn to hold up a mirror to ourselves. There are some wonderful institutions in this country. The 4-H Club is one of them. I grew up in the 4-H Club, and we did hear some rumblings recently with the 4-H Club. I mean, I hear it's so big, but up until that time, I used to say, I grew up to impact people's lives. Give them something. Give them something to do. Resource them. Resource them more so that when they teach us to farm and feed ourselves, we also learn how important that is. That are not duncy head people go grow food. Especially in this time when our food security is so severely threatened. Me not know how Beryl know which part the food grow throughout the region. That everywhere she stop at people food, she's all right. So now we're gone into conspiracy theories. But I said it.
Right, but it is what it is. Yes, I mean, this happened. It's no longer a conspiracy theory when it actually happened, you know. So this happened.
I said it.
Yeah, this happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. How do we allow our people to, how do we teach our people that are the brightest people produce food?
Yeah.
I want scientific something, you know.
Yes.
How do we educate ourselves so that we understand that there is something wrong in a society where people who sell liquor and car, well, car is an essential thing, but liquor and cigarette no richer than the farmer who feed with. Because we don't have to drink liquor, we don't have to smoke cigarette, but the farmer no have nothing. And so we need to resource institutions such as the 4-H clubs to assist our farmers to reach the level of TP Leki. Is a scientific endeavor. You know, a TP Leki on the cup, how the cow is some maga, and how the milk's watery, and what can I do to change that? I don't hear about experiments at Bodles anymore the way I used to, and maybe I'm not paying enough attention. But how do we raise the profile of a Bodles experimental farm to what I used to understand and regard it as when I was growing up? So there are institutions that need to be revived and upgraded, and there are existing programs in which we need to insert serious cultural content.
I mean, I want to continue this conversation with you. I think it is so important. I am concerned. I can hear in your voice your concern, and I can also hear that you've been thinking about this in a serious way. So I want to continue the conversation, if you don't mind, on the other side of the holidays.
Yeah, man.
And we pick this up. Thank you so much, my sister, as usual. And I don't know if I'm going to see you up in the bushes, but at the end of the month here, but if not, take care and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, blessed love.
All right, give thanks. All right, so Sister Amina Blackwood Meeks there. Food for thought. She came out swinging, and she made some really, really serious points. She raised some serious points. We're going to have to listen again and listen when we take the break and go back and replay what we just heard coming from our sister Amina Blackwood Meeks. Let me take a break.
Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth.
With Kamala and Donald Trump is not going to be, in my estimation, and I'll take it back if I'm wrong, it's not easy sailing for her. She's coming up on misogyny, racism, you know, all kinds of isms that she has to, you know, overcome. You know, so it's not going to be an easy thing. And I'm still watching the polls. I am not fazed by the hype. I don't have a horse in the race because American policy is American policy. It's not going to suit us anyway. Whether Kamala, Barack, Michelle, Hillary, JD, or Donald, it really doesn't matter. America's foreign policy as far as we are concerned, African people, wherever we are, remains the same. It is oppressive. It is what it is. America's foreign policy, as far as we're concerned, is never in our best interest, not in our best interest. And we're still dealing with the militarization of the Caribbean waters, and yes, massive loads of coming in and massive loads of drugs still coming in. We're dealing with the militarization of our airspaces and by America, and we still have ton loads of drugs coming in by air and water and any other way else. Don't tell me they don't know. They know. We've had airplanes crashing in Jamaica and the pilot disappearing and massive ton load of drugs and still, we haven't heard anything. We've had a ton load of weapons found at in Jamaica somewhere. I think it's at Boscoville at Ian Fleming Airport. We had a massive drug at the Ian Fleming Airport. They're not talking about it. We are not talking about it. Them not talking about it. Everybody forget it. Well, it is what it is. We hear so in Sinaloa, we hear that El Chapo's son has been arrested. Is that still so, or was that a false news? That isn't in the US, by the way, because obviously immigration is a big thing in this election cycle. You saw it the same thing in the UK, in this election cycle in the US. And Kamala was made the border czar. No matter what they say, she was made the border czar, and she failed terribly at that. So all of a sudden we hear them capture El Chapo's son in Sinaloa. So I'm just going back to say that it doesn't matter who wins this election in the United States. It's 6 or 1 and a half dozen the other for us. The America's foreign policy is still oppressive for us as a people, and we really are not going to benefit one way or the other, whether it's Donald or positively, whether it's Donald or Kamala. But that said, we're watching. This is exciting. So we're watching it. It's really exciting. I'm watching J.D. Vance putting his foot in his mouth 10 times over, I'm watching Donald Trump very sorry that he named J.D. Vance. If he had known that Kamala was going to take over, he would not have named J.D. Vance as his his presidential running mate. But here we are. So I'm watching that, and I know you're watching that too. I'm getting your calls and your comments and so on. But I draw a line under it. I'm just watching it for the excitement. It's like watching the Olympics. Our sister Amina Blackwood-Meath just now raised the matter of food security. It's something that we take very seriously in this space. After Hurricane Beryl, we are now facing down the barrel of a serious food shortage on this island. The food basket, the bread basket of this island has been devastated. Just still want to reach out to the people of St. Elizabeth. There are still people who are without electricity across Jamaica. There are so many people who are calling to say they are still without electricity. There are still people who are just barely making it back because you lost your houses, you lost your roofs, and all of that. So, we're still thinking about you. Let me know how you're doing. If there's anything we can do in terms of reaching out to others for you, let us know.